Two alien princesses chose different sides, and war erupted. Its cities rose like silver spires from the surface, shimmering in sunlight, a testament to thousands of years of advanced civilization. At the heart of Zithra's capital, a massive crystalline palace reflected the colors of the sky, home to the royal family that had guided the planet for generations. Among them were two princesses, Lyra and Selene, sisters born a year apart, both destined to inherit the weight of leadership, yet with hearts that beat in very different rhythms. Lyra, the elder by a few months, had always been measured and thoughtful. Her amber eyes studied every situation with caution, weighing options, predicting outcomes. She believed in progress through collaboration, and she had spent years forging ties with neighboring planets, always thinking about how Zithra could grow stronger by forming alliances. Selene, younger and fiery, had a spirit that could not be contained by treaties or negotiations. Her turquoise eyes gleamed with ideals of independence and freedom, and she often clashed with her sister over the direction of their planet's future. The sisters' differences had never caused open conflict before, but the arrival of humans would change everything. Humans, a species small in numbers but vast in ambition, had arrived on Zithra in sleek starships. They were explorers, traders, and engineers, offering technology and knowledge that far surpassed even the most advanced Zitharan designs. For Lyra, they represented an opportunity. For Selene, a threat. It began in the Great Hall, a vast chamber lined with polished metal and crystal. The Galactic Council had convened there to discuss interstellar trade agreements, security pacts, and planetary alliances. Delegates from dozens of worlds gathered, their forms strange and beautiful, their voices singing in dozens of languages. Humans had been invited as observers, curious newcomers in a universe that rarely noticed their kind. Lyra rose to speak first. She wore her ceremonial robes of deep violet, embroidered with silver threads that shimmered in the hall's light. Her voice was calm, yet carried authority. "Zithra has long been a beacon in the galaxy," she said. "We have knowledge, resources, and technology that can help others, and in return we can gain allies, security, and understanding. Humanity has shown ingenuity and courage. They are a species that deserves our trust." Selene's response was sharp and immediate. She stood, her robes a bright turquoise, her movements fluid and determined. "Trust is not given lightly, Lyra. Humanity may seem harmless, but their ways are untested, their ethics unknown. We cannot risk our sovereignty for strangers whose loyalty is unproven. Zithra must remain independent. We must not bend our will to outsiders, no matter how clever they are." The hall murmured with tension. The delegates exchanged uneasy glances. For centuries, the Zitharan royal family had maintained unity, guiding their planet with a clear voice. Now, for the first time, the voice of leadership was fractured. Outside, the city seemed to sense the growing unrest. Airships glided silently above the streets, their lights reflecting in the waters below. Citizens watched from their windows as the palace's spires glittered, unaware of how their world was about to change. As the council continued, subtle moves of aggression began. Selene's supporters, loyal officers, and nobles whispered to each other in the shadows. Lyra's followers worked quietly to keep communication open with human engineers, sharing designs and ideas. Both factions grew in influence, slowly drawing the citizens of Zithra into their orbit. Meanwhile, in orbit beyond Zithra's atmosphere, a dark presence watched. A distant alien empire, long envious of Zithra's resources and technology, observed the growing rift with keen interest. They sent signals cloaked in subspace, seeking to fan the flames of discord. Their strategy was simple: let the sisters tear their own world apart and then strike when Zithra was weakened. On the surface, the first spark of real conflict appeared in the northern city of Veara, a hub of technology and industry. Lyra's faction had been planning a trade summit, inviting human engineers to demonstrate a new energy matrix that could power entire cities with minimal resources. Selene's followers viewed the event as an opportunity to assert control. Tensions escalated when Selene's forces blocked key supply routes, demanding that Lyra halt all collaboration with the humans. The human representatives, unaware of the political storm brewing, continued their work. Captain Elias, a human engineer with a calm demeanor and quick mind, noticed the increasing presence of armed Zitharans around the summit. "They don't seem happy," he said quietly to his colleague Mara, a pilot who had flown across 3-star systems to reach Zithera. "We should be careful. Something's about to happen." Indeed, by midday, skirmishes broke out on the outskirts of Veyara. Seleni's loyalists tried to seize control of the energy matrices, while Lyra's faction defended the humans and the facilities. Though both sides had advanced technology, the humans' ingenuity became evident. They quickly repurposed equipment, created energy shields, and evacuated non-combatants, demonstrating adaptability that caught both Zitheran factions off guard. In the midst of the chaos, the sisters faced each other. Lyra's eyes were steady, filled with a mixture of sadness and determination. "Selene, this war will destroy us," she said, her voice barely audible over the hum of energy shields and distant explosions. Selene's gaze was fiery, unwavering. "It is the only way to protect our people. I will not let outsiders decide our fate." Their confrontation was brief but intense, symbolizing the larger struggle consuming their planet. Citizens fled to underground shelters, and air traffic was rerouted to avoid battle zones. The humans, though far from home, worked tirelessly to mitigate damage and prevent unnecessary loss of life, earning the admiration of Zitherans on both sides. As night fell over Zithera, the northern city glowed with fires and emergency lights. The first official battles had taken place, leaving scars on the cityscape and on the hearts of its citizens. Yet even in darkness, humans moved through the streets with quiet courage, repairing power grids and tending to the wounded. Their actions began to influence some of Selene's followers, planting seeds of doubt about the righteousness of their cause. Back in the palace, Lyra convened with her council. Maps and holographic displays filled the chamber, showing troop movements, trade routes, and energy supply lines. "We cannot let this war continue unchecked," she said. "We must find a way to reach Selene, or we risk losing everything we have built." Her advisors, while loyal, were hesitant. "Your Highness, she may not listen. Her convictions are strong." Lyra's gaze hardened. "Then we will show her the cost of division. We will protect our people, and we will protect the humans who stand with us. Zithera's future cannot depend on pride alone." Selene, meanwhile, returned to her own council chamber, surrounded by her most trusted commanders. "The humans are clever," she admitted, "but cleverness alone does not ensure loyalty. We must strike decisively and remind our people that freedom comes at a cost." Her words stirred determination among her followers. Orders were sent to increase patrols, secure strategic points, and monitor the humans' movements. Selene believed she was acting to safeguard her planet, but she did not realize that the shadowy empire beyond the stars was already exploiting her actions. By the time Zithera completed its second day of conflict, the planet had changed. The citizens no longer looked solely to their royal family for guidance. They now looked to humans for solutions and hope. Stories of human ingenuity, courage, and compassion spread quickly through the cities, inspiring those caught in the middle of the sisters' divide. The war had only just begun, but already it was clear that Zithera's fate, and perhaps the fate of the human visitors, would be determined by the choices of two sisters who once shared a bond unbroken. Above them in the cold expanse of space, unseen eyes watched, waiting to see how far Zithera would fall before striking. As the night deepened, Lyra walked along the balcony of the palace, staring at the city below. Fires flickered in the distance, but so did lights of life and hope. She knew that what she must do next would define her legacy and perhaps save her planet from destruction. Selene, in her own chambers, looked out at the horizon where the twin moons of Zithera cast silver light across the ocean. Her heart was resolute, her mind convinced that independence was worth any sacrifice. She did not yet understand that the choices she made tonight would determine not just her planet's survival, but the survival of an entire species she had only just begun to trust. And so Zithera entered its darkest hour, the first day of a war that would test courage, loyalty, and the boundless potential of humanity. The war that had begun with small skirmishes in Veyara quickly spread across Zithera, engulfing cities, forests, and coastlines in tension. And conflict. The once shining planet, proud of its beauty and technology, now shimmered under the glow of emergency beacons, the hum of energy shields, and the flicker of distant fires. Civilians huddled in shelters or fled to safer regions, while the royal sisters' armies expanded, each trying to gain the upper hand. Lyra moved like a calm storm through her command center, reviewing holographic maps that displayed troop positions and the movements of human engineers and fighters. She studied each detail meticulously, knowing that every decision mattered. Unlike Selene, who acted on instinct and ideology, Lyra relied on careful planning. Her human allies had already begun demonstrating their unique approach to warfare, adaptable, inventive, and often unpredictable. Captain Elias and his crew worked tirelessly alongside Zitharan engineers. Using small, modular devices, they constructed mobile energy shields that could protect entire blocks of civilians from Selene's attacks. They repurposed Zitharan drones, turning them into scouts that could move silently and relay enemy positions in real time. Lyra watched with a mixture of admiration and relief. Humans were not only helping, they were proving themselves invaluable. Meanwhile, Selene's faction advanced aggressively. Her turquoise eyes burned with determination as she directed her forces from the front lines. She believed that decisive strikes would break Lyra's coalition, and she had begun targeting supply lines and communication hubs. Her soldiers, loyal and fierce, carried out her orders with precision, but her reliance on brute force and intimidation began to show cracks. In the city of Talviera, one of Zithara's largest trade hubs, humans and Lyra's forces prepared for an attack that Selene had planned meticulously. Intelligence reports had warned of a fleet of heavily armed ships approaching from orbit, carrying troops and advanced weaponry. Captain Elias quickly devised a plan. "We can't fight them head-on," he said to Lyra, "but we can use the environment to our advantage. If we lure them into the canyon system east of the city, we can trap their fleet and neutralize the advantage of their larger numbers." Lyra nodded, trusting his judgment. "Then we do it. Evacuate civilians and position our forces. Make sure the humans can deploy their devices without interference." As night fell, the canyon system glowed with subtle energy fields. Humans moved quietly, setting up devices that could generate electromagnetic pulses, disrupting enemy communications. Lyra's forces took hidden positions, ready to strike. The enemy fleet, unaware of the trap, descended into the canyon, confident in Selene's plan and their numerical superiority. Then the humans struck. Small drones zipped through the narrow passages, disabling energy shields and creating confusion. The electromagnetic pulses caused Selene's ships to falter, some drifting uncontrollably and colliding with the canyon walls. Lyra's troops emerged from hidden positions, striking with precision. Despite being outnumbered, their coordination and the humans' innovations turned the battle into a stunning success. Selene watched from a command ship, her heart pounding. Her plans had been flawless on paper, yet they were falling apart in reality. She clenched her fists. How are they doing this?" she whispered. "Humans, they are too clever." But the battle was only one part of the conflict. Across Zithara, skirmishes continued. Small human squads worked behind enemy lines, rerouting energy flows, repairing critical systems, and evacuating civilians trapped in Selene's occupied cities. Their actions saved countless lives and demonstrated that courage and ingenuity could rival brute strength. In one northern settlement, a team led by Mara, the human pilot, encountered a group of children trapped in a collapsed building. Using portable tools and energy stabilizers, the team created a safe passage and carried the children to safety, earning cheers from the local Zitharan defenders. "Humans, they really are something else," one young Zitharan soldier muttered. As battles raged, Lyra attempted to reach out to Selene once more. She sent a message through a secure channel, her words calm yet firm. "Selene, this war is not what it seems. We are both being played and Zithara is suffering. Let us find a solution before it is too late." Selene's reply was delayed, filled with pride and suspicion. "You think I will trust you after this betrayal? My loyalty is to Zithara, not to outsiders." Despite the rejection, Lyra did not give up. She knew that Selene's stubbornness was fueled by fear of losing control and a desire to protect her people. And she knew that humans, with their quick thinking and adaptability, were the key to bridging the divide. As days passed, the human influence became more apparent. Engineers like Captain Elias designed devices that could detect ambushes. Pilots like Mara executed daring maneuvers, and medics treated injuries that Zitharan medicine could not easily handle. Even simple ideas, like using reflective surfaces to confuse enemy sensors or creating decoy energy signals, began to tip the balance. Meanwhile, Selene's forces faced growing frustration. Her reliance on traditional methods and her belief in overwhelming power sometimes backfired. Small teams of humans and Lyra's soldiers disrupted her supply chains, forcing her to commit more resources to minor threats. She began to realize that intelligence and adaptability were as dangerous as raw force. Tensions among Seleni's advisors also began to rise. Some questioned the strategy, suggesting that humans might be manipulating the situation. Others, loyal to her vision, urged continued aggression. Seleni's confidence remained outwardly strong, but inside, doubt began to creep in. She had underestimated the humans, and she had underestimated the bond that even a divided Zitharan people could form with them. Amid the chaos, a small human diplomatic mission met secretly with Seleni's closest advisors. They explained the situation. A distant alien empire had been watching Zithara, manipulating events to provoke civil war. The humans had intercepted communications, showing that Seleni's victories were being influenced, and that the empire planned to strike once the planet was weakened. Selene was unaware of these meetings, but subtle signs began to influence her thoughts. A supply convoy went missing, a supposedly secure communication line was intercepted, and unexpected failures occurred in her fleet. Each incident gnawed at her confidence, though she struggled to see the cause. Back on the battlefield, Lyra's forces gained momentum. In the city of Caerla, humans deployed portable energy nets to capture enemy drones without destroying them. Soldiers from both sides watched in awe as machines that had seemed unstoppable were neutralized with minimal damage. The ingenuity of humans inspired some of Seleni's soldiers to reconsider their allegiance, though loyalty and fear kept most in line. During a lull in the fighting, Lyra walked among the injured and civilians. She saw hope flickering even amid destruction, and she realized that the humans were more than allies. They were a symbol of what could be achieved when intelligence, courage, and morality came together. "We must keep going," she told her aides. "This is not just a war of armies. It is a war of ideas. If we win here, we prove that life does not have to be ruled by fear." Selene, in contrast, spent hours alone on her command ship, staring at the stars. Her mind replayed every loss, every setback, and she began to sense a larger force at play. She could not yet admit it, but even her fiery resolve was being tested. She had never faced opponents who could adapt so quickly, anticipate her moves, and act with such fearless ingenuity. The human presence was the difference. They did not rely solely on technology, nor on numbers, nor on brute strength. They relied on creativity, on thinking one step ahead, and on protecting life whenever possible. Their actions had become the turning point in battles that might otherwise have ended in catastrophe. As Part 2 drew to a close, the conflict reached a temporary stalemate. Selene's forces held the northern territories, Lyra controlled the south and central cities, and humans moved fluidly between both, protecting civilians and disrupting enemy plans. The planet had not yet fallen, but the threat of total destruction loomed. Lyra and her human allies convened a secret council. "The enemy has advantages we cannot yet see," she said, her amber eyes steady. "We must learn more about their plans and about Selene's motives. If we do not understand what drives her, we cannot hope to end this war without more suffering." Captain Elias nodded. "We've already seen evidence of manipulation from beyond Zithara. If we can uncover it and expose it to Selene, we may be able to prevent further escalation. But it will require risk, sending teams behind enemy lines, gathering intelligence without being detected." Lyra's gaze hardened with determination. "Then we take the risk. Zithara's survival depends on it, and we cannot allow pride or fear to blind us. Humans, together with our forces, will be the ones to turn this tide." Selene, unaware of the humans' growing role, continued her own preparations. Her determination had not waned, but subtle unease began to creep into her thoughts. The successes she had expected did not come easily. Every move she made was countered with ingenuity she had not anticipated. And though she refused to admit it, the humans were becoming a force she could not ignore. And so, Zithara's war escalated. Battles raged across cities, canyons, and orbiting space above the planet. Humans continued to show courage and creativity. Lyra's leadership grew stronger with every challenge, and Selene's fiery resolve clashed with forces she could neither predict nor fully control. The war had entered a new phase, one where intelligence, ingenuity, and morality mattered as much as numbers and weapons. Humans were no longer observers. They were central players, capable of changing the course of a planet's fate. Zithra's future hung in the balance, shaped not only by the strength of the royal sisters, but also by the extraordinary potential of a species that had come from a small, distant world to prove that courage and cleverness could match the mightiest of empires. The conflict on. Zithra had grown beyond the control of either princess. Cities that had once thrived now bore the scars of war, their streets littered with debris, their energy grids fluctuating, and their citizens weary but resilient. Amid the chaos, the humans continued to move with purpose, their minds sharp, their actions decisive. Captain Elias and Mara, along with a small team of engineers and strategists, had begun to uncover evidence that the war itself was being manipulated by an outside force, a distant alien empire that sought to weaken Zithra for its own gain. In the northern city of Vayara, which had suffered repeated attacks, Lyra convened a secret meeting with her most trusted human allies. Holographic projections floated in the room, displaying intercepted communications and fleet movements. "This is no longer just a civil conflict," Lyra said, her amber eyes steady but intense. "Someone is orchestrating the battles, guiding Seleni's moves, and using her desire for independence to divide our planet. We cannot fight Selene alone. We must expose the true enemy before Zithra is destroyed." Captain Elias studied the projections. "We've intercepted transmissions routed through subspace channels," he explained. "The enemy is feeding Selene's forces advanced weapon designs, coordinating supply routes, and creating chaos to prolong the war. They want us to weaken ourselves so they can strike when we're vulnerable." Lyra's face hardened. "Then we must act. Mara, I want your team to infiltrate the enemy supply lines and uncover more proof. If we can show Selene that she is being manipulated, we might stop this war before it consumes everything." Mara nodded, checking her gear. "It's risky, but we have the technology to do it. Stealth drones, cloaking fields, and adaptive shields will help us move undetected. We just need to be careful. One mistake and the mission could fail and cost lives." Meanwhile, Selene continued to press her advantage in the north, unaware of the alien manipulation. Her turquoise eyes burned with determination as she observed a failed supply convoy. Her frustration was mounting. She had expected smooth victories, yet the humans and Lyra's forces continued to disrupt her operations. Her advisors were growing uneasy. "Your Highness," one said, "these humans are unlike any opponent we've faced. They adapt, improvise, and protect lives while countering our every move. Perhaps we should reconsider." Selene's glare silenced him. "We will not surrender to outsiders. Our people must remain free." "Do not speak of surrender, or you will answer to me." Yet even as she spoke, a seed of doubt took root. Something about the repeated failures felt unusual, too precise, too calculated to be random chance. Back in Vayara, the human team began their covert mission. Mara piloted a small vessel through dense asteroid fields, evading patrols with precision. Elias coordinated from a nearby orbital station, guiding them past mines and sensor arrays. Their target was a hidden supply depot in a mountainous region, where Selene's forces had stored advanced weaponry provided by the alien empire. Using compact drones equipped with hacking modules, the team infiltrated the depot's network. Locks disengaged silently, surveillance systems blinked out of existence, and data streams were downloaded in seconds. They discovered detailed plans outlining attacks on Zithra's cities, precise schedules of troop movements, and even communications confirming that Selene's forces were unknowingly being manipulated. "This is it," Elias said, scanning the files. "This proves the war is being controlled from outside. Selene has been fighting battles she thought were her own victories, but they've been orchestrated by another power." Mara frowned. "We need to get this information to Lyra and then to Selene, but we have to be careful. If she sees this as a trick from the humans, it could make things worse." The return journey was tense. Selene's patrols intensified, and the humans had to navigate through heavily monitored space routes. Drones and cloaking fields worked in tandem, allowing them to evade detection. But at one point, a near collision with a patrol ship sent alarms blaring. Mara's quick thinking and deft piloting saved them, and the data reached Lyra safely. Lyra studied the evidence with a mixture of relief and concern. "This confirms it," she said. "The alien empire has been manipulating Selene from the start. We have a chance to stop this war, but only if we can reach her and show her the truth." Elias nodded. "We'll need to do it carefully. Selene is proud, stubborn, and determined to protect her people. Any hint that she's being told what to do could make her reject the information entirely." Lyra considered her options. She could send a messenger, but that risked interception. She could approach Selene with a show of force, but that might reinforce her suspicion. Finally, she decided on a combined approach. Humans would accompany her in a demonstration of the evidence, showing Selene the manipulation in action, while minimizing the risk of confrontation. The meeting was set in a neutral zone, a desolate plateau far from the major cities. The air shimmered with tension as Lyra's forces and the human team arrived, Selene's fleet already in position, wary but curious. The humans activated their equipment, projecting holographic records of the intercepted transmissions. Detailed maps highlighted the supply routes, showing the alien empire's hand guiding Selene's moves. Selene's eyes widened as she watched the evidence unfold. Her initial reaction was disbelief. This cannot be true," she whispered, her voice trembling with shock. "I have been leading my people thinking I was in control, and all this time we were used." Lyra stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "Selene, I understand your anger and your pride, but look at the facts. We are not your enemies. The humans have helped us uncover this truth. Together, we can stop them and save Zithra before it is too late." For a long moment, silence hung in the air. Selene's mind raced. She thought of her victories, her strategies, her decisions. Every triumph now seemed tainted, every setback manipulated. Yet she also noticed something else. The humans had risked their lives to bring her the truth, and Lyra had not taken advantage of her ignorance. They had acted out of loyalty to Zithra itself, not to one sister or the other. Finally, Selene spoke, her voice steady but tinged with vulnerability. "If this is true, then we have been blind. I will consider what you are showing me, but trust must be earned, Lyra. And I must ensure my people are not deceived again." Lyra nodded, understanding. "We do not expect blind trust, but every day we wait, the alien empire grows stronger. We must act quickly." The alliance was fragile, but it existed. Humans, Lyra, and even a reluctant Selene now shared a common goal: exposing and defeating the alien empire before Zithra was destroyed. The next phase of the war became a strategic game of intelligence and counterintelligence. Small teams of humans infiltrated enemy lines, gathering information on the Empire's fleets and technology. Zithran engineers, under Lyra's guidance, adapted human designs to counter advanced weapons. They created traps, improvised energy shields, and devised clever tactics that could disrupt the enemy without large-scale destruction. Selene, watching these developments, began to reconsider her approach. She ordered her troops to hold defensive positions rather than advance aggressively, allowing humans and Lyra's forces to lead targeted strikes. Her trust in their plans was tentative, but it grew as victories mounted and the evidence of the Empire's manipulation became undeniable. In the city of Kairla, a joint operation demonstrated the effectiveness of this new alliance. Humans deployed drones to disable the Empire's orbital weapons, while Selene's forces secured key points on the ground. Lyra coordinated evacuations and ensured minimal civilian casualties. The success was clear. Working together, they could achieve what neither could accomplish alone. Amid the victories, personal bonds began to form. Selene observed human ingenuity with growing respect, seeing courage, creativity, and a moral code that prioritized life even amid war. She realized that humans were not just allies. They were an example of what a species could achieve when intelligence and morality guided action. Lyra, for her part, saw a change in her sister. Selene's pride remained, but it was tempered by a newfound awareness. She no longer dismissed human intervention as interference, nor did she act recklessly. Together, the sisters began to plan coordinated strategies, each complementing the other's strengths. The alien empire, unaware that its manipulations had been discovered, continued its preparations for a full-scale invasion. Their fleets amassed in hidden sectors, and powerful weapons were ready to strike Zithra once its people were exhausted. But the humans' intelligence operations had revealed these plans, and Lyra and Selene now knew they could not wait for the Empire to make the first move. Captain Elias convened a meeting with Lyra and Selene aboard a human vessel in orbit. "We have the advantage now," he said. "We know their positions, we know their supply lines, and we know the weaknesses in their fleet. If we act carefully, we can strike first, disrupt their plans, and protect Zithra before they even reach our surface." Selene's gaze hardened, determination replacing doubt. "Then we strike, but we do it together. I will not allow Zithra to be used as a pawn any longer." Lyra smiled faintly. "We act as one, humans, Zitharans, and sisters united. If we succeed, it will not just be a victory of arms, it will be proof that cooperation, intelligence, and courage can overcome even the most powerful manipulations." And so, with the truth revealed and alliances cautiously formed, Zithra prepared for the decisive phase of the conflict. The alien empire's shadow loomed, but for the first time, the sisters were no longer divided. Humans, with their ingenuity and unwavering courage, had shifted the balance. The war was far from over, but hope had returned. Lyra, Selene, and the human allies were ready to confront the Empire, to protect their planet, and to prove that, even in the darkest of times, the brilliance of life, intelligence, and morality could prevail. As the stars glittered in the night sky above Zithra, the three forces prepared to move as one, setting the stage for a confrontation that would determine not only the fate of the planet, but the future of humanity among the stars. The sky above Zithra was a canvas of fire and light. Stars shimmered faintly beyond the atmosphere, but below, the planet itself was alive with the hum of engines, the crackle of energy shields, and the tense anticipation of battle. For the first time since the conflict began, the two sisters, Lyra and Selene, stood not as opponents, but as leaders united in purpose. Humans had proven their worth, their ingenuity and courage bridging the gap between divided factions. Now, together, they prepared to face the alien empire that had sought to manipulate and destroy them. Lyra moved calmly through the command center, reviewing holographic projections of the approaching enemy fleet. Each ship was mapped, every weapon system noted, and the patterns of attack predicted by human analysts with astonishing accuracy. "They've brought the full force of their fleet," she said, her voice steady. "But we know their weaknesses. If we act together, we can turn this battle into a victory for Zithra." Selene, standing beside her, did not speak immediately. Her turquoise eyes scanned the displays, taking in the numbers, the formations, and the threat of overwhelming firepower. "We cannot underestimate them," she finally said, her tone resolute. "Every move must be precise. One mistake and everything we've fought for is lost." Captain Elias stepped forward, pointing to a projection of the enemy formation. "Their capital ships are strong but slow. Their communications are centralized, which makes them vulnerable to disruption. If we target key nodes, we can create confusion in their fleet. Combined with our coordinated ground defenses, we can defend Zithra and force them into retreat." Mara, piloting a nearby scout vessel, added, "We can also use diversion tactics. Small strike teams can disable their energy weapons temporarily, giving our forces the opening they need." Humans and Zitharans working together have already shown that ingenuity can outweigh raw power. The sisters exchanged a glance. There was still tension between them, the years of pride and rivalry not completely erased, but there was also trust, a fragile, growing trust that would guide their actions in the battle to come. As the first wave of alien ships entered Zitharan space, the conflict erupted. Energy beams lanced through the sky, explosions lit the atmosphere, and the hum of engines became a thunderous roar. Humans piloted nimble craft, weaving between larger ships, deploying devices that disrupted the enemy's sensors. Zitharan ships, coordinated by Lyra's strategic mind and Selene's aggressive tactics, struck with precision. On the ground, cities were fortified. Humans and Zitharans worked side by side, deploying portable shields to protect civilians and rerouting power grids to prevent sabotage. In the northern city of Vayara, Mara led a squad of human engineers to disable an enemy landing platform. Using a combination of stealth, hacking, and quick improvisation, they neutralized the threat before the alien forces could establish a foothold. Selene observed their success, a mix of admiration and caution in her eyes. She had underestimated humans before, but now she saw their bravery, their cleverness, and their unwavering commitment to life and strategy. Her pride remained, but it was tempered by respect. "They are different from anything I expected," she admitted quietly. But perhaps different is exactly what we needed. Lyra coordinated attacks across the planet and in orbit. Human pilots executed daring maneuvers, drawing enemy fire while exposing vulnerabilities. Engineers on the surface rerouted power from city grids to create localized EMP bursts, disabling key enemy systems. Soldiers moved with synchronized precision, striking at weak points, retreating and striking again. The alien empire, confident in its superior numbers and firepower, found itself struggling against the combined intelligence and ingenuity of humans and Zitharans. In orbit, Mara's small craft intercepted a signal from the Empire's command center. "They're trying to regroup," she said. "If we can disable their central communications, we can throw their fleet into chaos." Lyra nodded. "Do it, but coordinate with Selene. We move as one." Selene took a deep breath, her hands gripping the controls of her command ship. "We move as one," she echoed. The humans executed a daring infiltration. Using stealth technology and rapid maneuvers, they penetrated the enemy command center's defenses. Elias led a team that hacked the communications network, feeding false data into the enemy's systems. Ships that had been moving in coordinated formations began colliding, misfiring, and retreating in confusion. The alien fleet's advantage evaporated under the combined pressure of strategy, intelligence, and human ingenuity. On the surface, Lyra and Selene coordinated a final push. Ground forces struck at key installations, cutting off supply lines and disabling weapon platforms. The sisters' leadership complemented each other perfectly. Lyra's strategic foresight, combined with Selene's decisive action, created a rhythm that the enemy could not anticipate. Humans, moving seamlessly with Zitharan forces, executed maneuvers that disrupted the alien advance and saved countless lives. Amid the chaos, moments of heroism emerged. Mara led a squad to rescue civilians trapped beneath collapsed buildings caused by enemy bombardment. Elias personally directed a team to disable a particularly dangerous orbital weapon before it could fire on the capital. Each action, small but vital, reinforced the theme that intelligence, courage, and morality could triumph over sheer force. As the battle reached its climax, the alien empire's command ships attempted a retreat. Lyra and Selene ordered a coordinated strike, cutting off their escape routes and disabling engines with precise energy bursts. The remaining forces were forced to surrender or flee, their fleet in disarray. Zithara had survived. The aftermath was breathtaking in its quiet contrast to the chaos. Cities bore the scars of battle, yet life continued. Humans moved among the citizens, repairing systems, tending to the wounded, and offering reassurance. Zitharans worked alongside them, witnessing firsthand the creativity and courage that had turned the tide of war. Selene walked through one of the liberated cities, observing the humans and her own people working together. She saw children returning to schools, markets reopening, and families reunited. Her pride in her people remained, but now it was coupled with respect for the humans who had helped them survive. "They have shown us what strength really is," she said softly, turning to Lyra. Lyra nodded. "Strength is not just about weapons or numbers. It's about courage, ingenuity, and protecting what is right. Humanity has reminded us of that." The sisters convened a council in the Capitol Palace, now partially rebuilt after the attacks. They addressed their people together, a united front that symbolized the new era. Lyra spoke of cooperation, unity, and the lessons learned from the humans. Selene acknowledged the mistakes of pride and stubbornness, emphasizing that strength also comes from trust and alliances. Humans were honored for their role, celebrated not only for their technology, but for their bravery, intelligence, and compassion. Captain Elias, Mara, and their teams were recognized as heroes, not just of Zithara, but of the galaxy, showing that even a small species could make a monumental impact. The alien empire had been repelled, forced to retreat to the outer reaches of the galaxy, their manipulations exposed and defeated. Zithara had survived not through sheer might, but through the combined efforts of its people, its leaders, and the humans who had stood by them. In the quiet that followed, the sisters reflected on the journey. Selene, once fiery and unyielding, had learned the value of perspective, caution, and cooperation. Lyra, steadfast and wise, had learned the importance of compassion, adaptability, and trusting even those she once thought too small to make a difference. Together, they had not only saved their planet but strengthened it, proving that unity could overcome manipulation, pride, and fear. Humans began to establish permanent bases on Zithra, not as conquerors or rulers, but as allies and friends. Knowledge was shared, trade routes expanded, and joint scientific endeavors began to flourish. The bond between species was a living testament to the potential of collaboration, ingenuity, and morality. And in the hearts of all who had fought, Zithra had proven something extraordinary, that courage, intelligence, and ethical action could triumph over overwhelming odds. The humans, small but mighty in spirit, had shown the galaxy that the measure of a species was not its numbers, nor its firepower, but the strength of its mind, its heart, and its willingness to stand for what is right. The twin moons of Zithra rose over the horizon, casting silver light on a planet reborn from the ashes of war. Lyra and Selene stood together, watching the city below, their differences reconciled through shared struggle and understanding. They knew that challenges would come again, but for now, they had proven that unity, courage, and ingenuity could overcome even the greatest threats. The humans, their allies in both battle and wisdom, looked to the stars beyond, knowing that their journey was far from over. But they had left an indelible mark on Zithra, a mark of hope, of intelligence, and of the indomitable spirit of life itself. Zithra had survived, its people united, and its story became a shining example across the galaxy, a tale of bravery, collaboration, and the extraordinary potential that humanity brought to the stars. The war had ended. The future had begun. Two alien princesses chose different sides, and war erupted.